Greetings, friends and enemies. Welcome back to Art by Flan. Today, we're actually going to be doing a little bit of a story time. I told this story on my New Year's live stream a couple days ago, a week ago, whenever it was. And I asked, should I make this a story time? And everyone was like, absolutely you should. So I'm going to tell the story of how I kidnapped a boy. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the art you're seeing in the background. This is just some self-indulgent art. I recently bought the most adorable mermaid adopt from Twisted Disaster here on YouTube. She put him up on DeviantArt. I fell in love. I was never really an adoptable type person, but I loved this character, so I bought her and I'm doing some art of her. So there you go. That's that. But on to the actual story. So I make it sound worse than, well, actually, no, it might be worse than I'm just saying I kidnapped a boy. So let me lay the scene. I live in a city where it's not a big metropolis, but it's bigger than a small city. I guess it's a pretty average size city, and we have a lot of manual transit, like in the warmer months, because when it gets really cold up here. So in the warmer months, you'll see a lot of people walking places or riding their bikes places, or an odd amount of rollerbladers as well in the summer months for sure. But this was in the fall, probably about September, end of August, beginning of September, something like that. And I hadn't lived here maybe a year when this happened. Yeah, it was a little over a year, because I was going back to my hometown in a couple of weeks when this happened. But anyway, I was going to work, and as I'm going to work, I have to turn at an intersection. And keep in mind, Danny wasn't a very strong driver at this point in time, and she's going to turn at this intersection, and she double checks everything. She says she sees that the light is green, not a turn signal, mind you, but a green light that you can turn on. And the hand sign is up for people not to cross. Well, as the car in front of me goes straight, I see a girl on her bike zip across the intersection, and I think to myself, these kids need to be careful, because they're going to try and zip across this intersection on a do not stop, do not go sign, and they're going to hit a car. And so I go to turn my big old 2000 Buick Century, and something, wham, collides with my car, and I slam on the brakes. And I throw on the caution lights like you're supposed to do, and I get out of the car, and that's when I see it. A teenager, I call him a boy. He was in high school. He was probably junior, senior, maybe a sophomore at the youngest. And I see that he has collided with my car, slid across the hood, and is laying on the ground on the other side of my car while his bike's wheel, which is now bent and broken, spins on the other side. And I go into fight or flight mode. And my first reaction is to check on the boy, obviously. And I get him sat up, I make sure his head's still on, and I ask him, is anything hurt? Have you broken any bones? He says no. I ask him what his name is, and honestly I couldn't tell you what it is right now. I ask him what his name is, I ask him if he knows where he is, and I ask him if he knows the date. He knows all of those things, and he seems to be in good working order, besides the fact that he just T-boned my car with his rinky-dink bike. And this is where things start to go wrong. Me, in fight or flight mode, thinks I gotta get this boy to a hospital. Not what you should do in this situation. What you should do in this situation is call the police, call 911, call an ambulance, sit the person on the side of the road to make sure they don't have any serious spinal or neck injuries, okay? That's what you should do. That's not what I did. I panic and think I gotta get this boy to a hospital, because apparently waiting for an ambulance was not a thing that occurred in my mind. Now keep in mind, this is early morning rush hour traffic, so people were around. Somebody called an ambulance. And so what does Danny do? Well, I'll tell you what she does. She thinks, gotta get this boy to a hospital, loads the boy and his bike into her car, and takes off. Just fucking goes. Just like, I gotta get this boy to a hospital. I don't think ambulances exist at this point in time. I gotta go. So all people around me saw was this boy hit me on his bike, and then me gather him up and run away from the scene of the crime. Whereas in my head, it makes perfect sense to try and get this boy to the hospital. Well, as I'm driving, it dawns on me that I have broken the first rule of moving someplace new, which is know where the hospital is. I don't know where the damn hospital is in this town. I do now, but I didn't then. And so I call up my roommate who has been to the hospital, and I go, Brooke, where's the hospital? Of course, she's groggy. I just pulled her out of a deep sleep, and she's like, I don't know where the fucking hospital is. Google it, and hangs up on me. Another thing to keep in mind is the only time Brooke had been to the hospital was when she was barely conscious with near alcohol poisoning. So she also had no idea how to get to the fucking hospital. And anybody else I could call was either already at work or had their phone off. And so I asked the boy, I say, boy? I don't say that. I say, do you know where the hospital is? And he goes, my mom works there, but I don't remember how to get there. And I'm like, fantastic. So I drive us around to find a parking space, and I park and I pull out my phone and I'm looking up directions to the hospital with this boy I just kidnapped from the scene of an accident. And he looks at me and he says, you know, this wasn't the first time I've been hit by a car. And I look up from my phone and I look at him and I kind of laugh and say, well, it's good that I got the seasoned professional. And it's about this time that the police pull up beside me. And I start to freak out because then it all hits me. I didn't stay at the scene of this crime. I just kidnapped this boy and took off in front of morning rush hour traffic. And the police have found me and think I have done some previous crime. Keep in mind, I had just gotten my license maybe a year and a half prior to this, okay? Maybe a year and a half before I moved, so at least a year ago. I'd only been seriously driving for a year. My record is spotless. I have nothing to worry about, but the cops don't know that yet. They just see some bitch hit a kid on a bike and then run off with him. So the police show up and the ambulance shows up. And the ambulance takes the boy away, takes his bike away, gets him all squared away. And then the cop zeroes in on me and goes, you're kind of in a lot of trouble. And my first thought was, I'm going to fucking jail because I kidnapped a boy. And so the cop asks for my license and registration, as a cop would at the scene of an accident. I should have been where the accident happened, but my ass kidnapped the boy. And so I go to get my car, and I get out my license, and I give him that, and I go to get my registration, and I realize it's expired. The shit icing on my shit cake of a morning is that the night before, we had printed out new registration, new licensing, new insurance. It's not registration, it was insurance. I don't know car terms apparently. It's insurance. Printed out new insurance. And I told myself the night before, don't forget to grab your new insurance on the way out the door. And guess what my stupid ass forgot to do? That's right, it's now sitting on the counter at my apartment down the street instead of in my car where it should be after I kidnapped and hit this boy. So I call my roommate again and I wake her up. And she's groggy, and she's tired. She's like, what do you want? And I was like, Brooke, I hit a boy. I forgot the insurance. Please bring me the insurance. And she's like, where are you at? Where are you at? So I try to give her, I'm crying by this point because I'm convinced the police are going to arrest me for kidnapping and endangering a youth. And I'm trying to tell her where I am. It's literally right down the road from my apartment. Like, they just had to get out onto the main road and drive, and they would see me talking to the police. But anyway, my roommate finally gets it together and brings it over. And this cop is just glaring daggers at me while he runs my plates and runs my insurance. And all he sees is this weepy fucking 20-something-year-old girl crying because she panicked. And he asked me what I was thinking. And I was like, listen, officer, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. When it happened, I was just... My initial reaction was to get him to the hospital. And my roommate corroborated my story. She was like, yeah, she called me trying to figure out where it was. We haven't been in the city that long, and she didn't know where it was. So I had an alibi, and the boy could attest. He was on the way to the hospital his mom worked at. And the cops went easy on me, thank God, because I had no priors on anything on my record. I had nothing. And they gave me a little citation for not being diligent watching where I was going. And they were just like, remember, next time, just stay at the scene. He could have had some serious injuries and you could have exacerbated it by taking him away. And okay, thank you, officer. Thank you so much. That was the scene. And I went home. When he hit my car, he left a dent. Like, that's the most damage he and his dinky bike did to my car, was a dent, and he broke the side mirror when he impacted it with his body. Okay, that was the most he did to my car. The front wheel of his bike was wrecked. So we were talking to the insurance, getting it all straightened out. And of course, I'd had the worst morning anyone could ever have. Okay, and so my roommates offer to take me out to dinner because, hey, Danny hit a kid hit me and I kidnapped him. Let's have a relaxing dinner at our favorite Indian place. Okay. And as I'm enjoying my dinner, coming down from my awful day, I didn't go into work, by the way, I called in. I get a phone call from a number I don't recognize, thinking it's the insurance or something. I don't normally do, and I answer it in the middle of the Indian restaurant. Hello? And a male voice from the other side goes, hello, is this Danny? Yes, sir, it is. How can I help you? The guy, yeah, I believe you hit my son this morning. And it dawns on me, this is that kid's dad. He must have got my number from the insurance or whatever. But I'm thinking, oh God, this is it. They're telling me they're pressing charges. I'm going to owe so much money. And he just sort of laughs it off and goes, it's okay. We talked to insurance. We heard from yours. My son's okay. We're not going to press charges or anything. We know, we spoke to the police. We know you panicked. You didn't mean to hurt him or anything. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to kidnap your son. I just panicked and I'm so sorry. I'm so glad he's okay. And he's like, we just wanted to make sure you were okay. Make sure the car was okay. I was like, yeah, everything's perfectly fine on my end. And he's like, well, that's really good to hear. And it's like, it turns out he's a lawyer. His mom worked at the hospital, his dad was a lawyer, and somehow I managed to skirt the law when I hit the lawyer's son and kidnapped him. And that's it. I wish there was a more anticlimactic or more climactic ending for this, but that's it. Like, the gentleman's really nice. Insurance bought him a new bike. Our premiums went up for a little bit, but that was it. I still see the boy occasionally on his new bike, although I think now he has a car because I haven't seen him for a while, and hopefully he doesn't hit any kids on bikes. I still see him once in a while, and I wave, and he waves back, and we go on with our lives. So that was the story of how I hit and kidnapped a boy. Well, technically he hit me, but semantics. So yeah, if you like the story time and you want another one sometime, I don't know what other stories I could tell. If I think one, I'll do a story time if y'all want. But if you like what you see, don't forget to click that like button. You can subscribe, you can leave a comment, you can follow me on the social media. Do whatever you want to do if you want to. Special shout out to my patrons over on Patreon, Adrian Scribbles and Parzival. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, and I will see the rest of you in the next video. Bye-bye.